Hello and good night. Welcome to Mindful Live 127. I am your host, Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is the 30th of August 2022, the day before the holiday here in Trinidad and Tobago. And if you're asking what holiday I'm speaking about, well, if you're a Trini, shame on you. If you're not a Trini, well, the holiday I'm speaking about is Independence Day, which is the 31st of August every year. That's when the holiday is, but it's celebrating or commemorating the independence Trinidad received from the British Empire. We were a part of the largest empire that ever existed. You know, sometimes that's something that could slip your mind, something that you could forget. When you're thinking about empires, you think about the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, etc., etc., etc. But then you really sit back and realize, bro, you should attend the Trini Out and About Republic Day Fest to motivate youths and educate them. Well, send me that event in my inbox and I'll see what I can do. But yes, you could forget when you're thinking about when you're thinking about empires, you could forget that the English Empire, well, the British Empire, was the largest empire that ever existed. And it's kind of strange. They went from being the largest empire that ever existed to being what they are now in such a quick time. Like, this just seemed to all unravel pretty quickly. But yes, the British Empire was the largest empire that ever existed. We, as Trinidad and Tobago, we were part of that empire. And then in 1962, we were basically given our independence. Now, there's a lot of talk about that, about independence, about even emancipation and a whole lot about slavery, etc., etc., and how much of all of this had to do with the colonial powers recognizing this is the right thing to do, or had to do with just economics, where the expanse of the empire just was not sustainable anymore. Kaidan says Trinidad may have been better off if we were still ruled by the British. Okay, Kaidan. Shai Panda says too much money for them to manage all those slaves. Well, by the time we were independent, slavery was abolished quite some time before that. True, now even Scotland almost voted to leave the Union in referendum. Yes, they almost did, Massimo. And but Kaidan, that's a unique perspective, and it's not a perspective that is unknown to me. I've heard that quite a bit actually, and it's an interesting question. It is an interesting question. Would Trinidad and Tobago have been better off if we just remained as part of being the British, or were we better off now separating ourselves from that? Now, personally, I think freedom is better. I am always to a more decentralized version of governance, and being part of a colonial system where we would have still been ruled by Britain quite over there just does not seem like a good idea to get things decentralized. And I think oftentimes it's easy to look at what you have now and imagine how you could have done something different to get it better, but that does not necessarily trail with reality. If you look at many of the other territories that remained as British colonies, they kind of just remained as that offshoot. Nothing too serious going on there. So I'm not sure if I agree with that. In fact, I think that's actually wrong. But we need to appreciate the geography of Trinidad and Tobago to understand the political choices. That's true also. Yo, Kyle Edgehill, welcome. Now, let's dive into the first article of the evening, and you'll see exactly how that very same conversation kind of gets in there, intermingled with the politics also. All right. Kamala, PNM did not fight for independence. UK was giving away colonies. That's a headline. That's a headline. Kamla, PNM did not fight for independence. UK was giving away colonies. As the country celebrates 60 years as an independent nation, opposition leader Kamla Prasad Bisasa is advising nationals not to be fooled by the PNM into thinking it fought for independence. The British were shedding their empire at the time. The British weren't fighting to keep us as colonies. They said, go, go, please go. Jeez, man. Good grief. Massimo Original over on Instagram says, if Trinidad and Tobago was under rule of the British as a fully incorporated part of their constitutional monarchy, or at least where we would be equal UK citizens, then I think we would have been better off. Not necessarily. I don't think so. I think we as the Trinidadian UK citizens would have just engaged in brain drain, and as an individual being born in Trinidad, you may have had access to more because you would have basically been a British citizen, which is a different thing than saying Trinidad itself would have been better off. I don't think so, actually. Yes, yes, yes. Hey, Kremak, good night. I am not a Foley Sater. I am not a Foley Sater by any means. Yes, JKM, she really said that. It was Uriah Buzz Butler that got Trinidad independence. Okay. That's an interesting one. Nisi says, I tell earlier it's time for Tanticams to go lie down somewhere. You know? Good night, Ria. Good night, good night, good night. I see you back on your original profile here. So yes, to requote, and this piece is in quotation marks. So if the Newsday is to be believed, these are her direct quotes. Former Prime Minister of the independent Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. She is quoted as saying here, the British were shedding their empire at the time. The British weren't fighting to keep us as colonies. They said, go, go, please go. All of their former colonies got independence around the same time. There was no fight, she said at the United National Congress Monday night virtual meeting. Explaining the scenario at the time, Persad Bisessa asserted there was a fight when we went up to Marlborough House between the government and the then opposition to ensure balances and checks were in place in the constitution to protect all people and to provide an equal place for all in the country. After the Second World War, okay, so we'll get into that just now, but she is saying that Britain, the United Kingdom, was giving away colonies. They were just giving away the colonies. They weren't. I'm looking to see if everything is running smooth over there on YouTube. Ooh, there seems to be a problem over on YouTube. It seems like the YouTube live is not running today. What is going on? One moment. All right. That's YouTube. You ready for these book covers?